Good afternoon. Hello. Welcome to our backtesting jam session. My apologies. I lost track of time there and I'm starting a little bit late today. So sorry about that. But welcome. Thank you for joining here with me. So what we are doing with the backtesting jam sessions really is to get our eyes trained and accustomed to seeing price action. And this is very, very important. So this is like practice for us. So just like athletes practice, if somebody's a basketball player, they practice a lot of shots. So just like this, we are also practicing our through our back testing, we are getting that practice in. So when we are practicing these things, it helps build experience. It helps build these neural pathways in our brain so that when we see the same setup in the future, we are able to take it confidently. So that's the whole purpose of it. And the strategy that we are really testing is the daily analysis. So every night I do analysis, and this is part of the trade room, but you can do this on your own. So I look at a daily chart, and based on that, I look for market direction. Once we have a market direction, it's easier to look for a place to enter and exit the trades. So market direction is really what we are after. We are practicing this on a daily chart, but this can be applied to any chart. So you can look at an hourly chart, you can look at charts that are different time frames, but it's the same thing that we're looking at. So this is called bar by bar analysis. And we essentially look at the candlestick that we are on, and then we're doing a guess as to where the market will go. So Joel's asking a question, can we practice intuition? This is actually a way to build intuition. So I have been doing a lot of studies or reading and looking at different research on how to get into a state of flow and develop intuition. So one of the things that we need in order to develop intuition, or the gut feeling, is, if you've read the book Trading from the Gut. So one of the things that we need to do is this practice. So intuition is really just experience that comes into play when we are actually doing the work. So there was actually, I can't remember the book that I was reading this in or where I was listening to this, where they talked about, what was it? I don't recall his name, but he was a very experienced race car driver. And he was in this race, this particular race, and what he found was that there was a big car pileup, and there were actually some people lost their lives in the pileup. He not only did he not have a collision, he avoided the whole thing, and he put brakes on when nobody would have expected him to put brakes on. And the point there was, so they asked him, they interviewed him after the race, and they said, well, every single person collided and ended up in this pileup. How come you didn't? What made you put your brakes on when going around the corner you could not see the collision? How could you have known that something was wrong? And what the guy said was that he had been racing for many number of years, and when you're racing, you don't have time to make decisions based on your checklist. You're not really running through a checklist, checking everything off. So your decision making has to be very, very rapid. And what he said was, over the years, he has experienced that when he's going around the corner like that, the people who are sitting there, they're looking towards him. So what you see is like a white or a pale scene, right? So you have a whole bunch of people watching you. So you have sea of this beige faces looking at you, essentially. But what he saw was that instead of that you basically see a blur, you see a beige blur, but what he saw was a black blur. And normally you do not see a black blur. And the only way you could have seen a black blur is when they were not looking towards him, because everybody's looking towards him. When the driver comes around the corner, everybody's faces are turned towards him. So what he sees is just this beige blur. But when he saw the black blur, so what his mind told him was that they were not looking towards him where they should have been looking. They were instead looking towards where things that were already past. So nobody should have been looking there. Why were they looking there? And that's where he put his brakes on, because the only way they would have been looking in the other direction, not where the drivers were coming from, is if there was a problem, right? And usually when you are racing, problems can be life-threatening. You can lose your life. And because of that, so he knew that something was going on. He didn't know exactly what was going on, but he knew something was going on. So his intuition or his gut told him to put the brakes on, and that's how he was able to avoid, because there's no way otherwise he would have put his brakes on. And the book was about developing this gut feeling or intuition. So one of the steps here is to go through these experiences so that when we see the same candles set up, when we see the same type of price behavior, even though we are looking backwards. So once we do this, it has to be a deliberate practice. So in terms of learning, we're kind of going away from the strategy, but this is an interesting topic, because in terms of learning, so what they say is to get really good at something, you have to do deliberate practice. So that's what we are doing. We're doing deliberate practice. And they said that you have to break down each piece of information into smaller components. So that's why I'm not, doing this over one day, and we're not rushing through the strategy. I'm not going down to smaller time frames, because that's not the point. We're still at step one, where if it was a violinist who was just, or a guitarist just practicing, they would start with the very basics. So that's where we are starting. So you master that one step, and then you move to the next one, and then you move to the next one, and then you layer them all together. So right now we're just at that first step where we're not even focused on compounding the issue. We're not talking about layering anything. We're just talking about what's the first step and what's the easiest step, right? Once you get really good at the first step, then you don't have to worry about it. It becomes muscle memory. You develop your neural pathways in your brain, and brain knows what to do. So you don't have to focus on it, right? And we can move on to the next step. So that's why I'm spending so much time on this step, and I will keep on spending time on this step. And I hope you will stay throughout the process, because this is some of the things that we do not learn in Forex trading. This is stuff that I have spent a lot of time learning from other areas. But I think this is very, very important and applies so much to trading. And this is how we develop skill in trading, and we develop the little soft skills that are kind of hard to teach. But this is a breakdown of developing the soft skills. So really what we're developing through here is one, strategy. Yes, we are looking at a strategy. My strategy is daily strategy. I look at daily candlesticks. I look for the market direction, and then I trade in the direction that I'm expecting the market to go, right? Very, very simple. But what we're doing here is we're building those neural pathways, and every day we come here, we spend some time, and we say, where is the market going to go next? And then we translate those into our daily practice. And my goal is to get really, really good at trading the daily chart. So this is what we're going to do. So hopefully you'll be able to do the same thing as well. And that's my intention by sharing this. I mean, I could do this privately, but one, it's nice to do it with somebody. Sitting at home and doing it on my own is just not as much fun. So it's nice when we can make a game of it. We can all start guessing together. And secondly, it just provides more accountability. So if you come join me during these practices, you will find that you will improve your trading as well. All right, so let's dive into it. Who is ready to play? So the purpose here is we're going to look at each candlestick, and we have to guess what's going to come next, right? So symbols, be ready. I am going to start doing the test. We'll start the test. So let's take a look. We are at this chart, and I'm going to zoom out a bit so we can see exactly where we are in the grand scheme of things. And sometimes it's important to zoom out so we can see where everything is. So what do I see here? I see that we are into resistance here. There is room for price to go higher. but we have been consolidating in this range for a while. And last time we saw this type of a behavior, price came up, pulled back, pushed higher. Here we have move up, pull back, push higher. And now we have this type of consolidation going on here. This one, it was slightly different. But this one here, we are in a sideways consolidation, but now we have a bullish candle close here. So one, we need to understand that we are at important support and resistance level, but there is room. So there is the next support and resistance level higher. Okay, so this is where we are. Question now is, what do we expect next? What are we looking for here? What's our next move? Where do you think the candle, what kind of, or where will the price go? Hi, Sunny. All right, so so start sending me put in the comments and start sending me your guesses. So where do we think the market's gonna go? All right, so what I see here is the price is making higher lows. It hasn't made higher highs. So we're at an interesting point. So this is, again, one of those places where I would go into a smaller time frame and see what price will do. So we have a big bullish candle close. So yes, so Sunny says there'll be a pullback. So I would look for a pullback, but this one could break up and go into the next support and resistance level, because this is the strongest candle we have seen in some time at this level here. But so it could go to the next one and then turn around and come back. So let's take a look. Okay, so this is what I meant. So see how it went up and came back and came back down, because there is that resistance level right up top here. See how it went right into that support and resistance level. There was room to the upside, went up, and now it has come back. And this is, so it's a good idea to zoom out of our charts and see where price is overall in the grand scheme of things. So price went up, now it's closed back down, it's rejected that. What are we expecting price to do next? Where do we go from here? Okay, so we're saying go down, Pritpal saying go down. Yes, I agree. That's a nice pin bar on a daily chart. So if you want to look at current price action, look at Euro US dollar chart. This is not last night, but the night before. You will see there was a daily pin bar. And since then, price has dropped like 300 pips or more. So the price has dropped a lot since then. So I really like daily pin bars. So for me, this is a daily pin bar. It's a bearish signal. Price went into an area which was a I want to say a multi-month high, because the price was here a long time ago. We have a double top, we have a pin bar. So this is where I would be looking for price to drop down. So let's take a look. So I'm in the comments, I'm seeing people saying it will go down. I agree. So let's take a look. Oh, it went up. So let's see if it will turn around from here. So there we go. It did that test back, and now price has dropped. And what do you expect price to do now? So actually, just a comment here, just a quick comment around this pin bar. So there will be times when the pin bars will fail, but this is one of my most favorite setups to trade on a daily chart. So daily chart and 1 hour chart, I love the pin bars because it's a single candle close. It's they're very good. And one thing that you do want to remember is when we have a pin bar, our stop needs to be higher, because sometimes this can happen, or sometimes it will pull back like 50% of the pin bar. So there's always that retracement that happens before price continues lower. Hey, Shuman, good to see you. So we're just playing this guessing game. So what do we expect price to do now? So we have come down. It hasn't quite closed back into this range again. Where do we expect price to go next? So I would be looking for price to drop here because price hasn't been able to break the high, but we are at that interesting level here where price hasn't quite come back in, but my bias is to the downside. Now, if we do get a candle close higher here, bullish candle close, then we of course going higher up. But right now at this point, my bias will be to the downside, and it looks like we're getting some comments around that as well, looking for downside. So let's take a look. Okay, so we have a very neutral candle close, hasn't quite managed to close back into this range here. Where do we expect price to go from here? So I would be looking for price to drop. Yeah, so my bias is to the downside. So we say go sideways. Yes, you can go sideways here and then drop. So right now I'm looking for price to drop. So let's take a look. Julian says it's going to go down. Let's take a look. So there we go. See how it went sideways. So for sure, because that's an important area. And one of the examples that I think under current market conditions, if you want to look at what's going on in the moment here, I think it was gold that had one of these where price just played with the top and could not break the high for a number of days, and then it dropped. So I think it was in gold. Anyway, so this is, so now we have a bearish candle close. Now, where do we expect it to go? So I'm seeing a couple of ups. My bias would be to the downside. What I would be expecting here would be price pulls back and then drops from there. So my bias is to the downside. I'm looking for a retest of this level here perhaps, and then a drop. So let's take a look. Okay. So it dropped, and the reason I was looking for it to drop was because if it doesn't break the high and closes back into this area like this, chances are it's going to come back into this support resistance area, into the bottom of the range. Dollar CAD is another one that has been doing this. So if you take a look at the dollar CAD daily chart, we'll notice that price was in a range for many days, almost 2 weeks, and then it broke out to the upside, came right back down, went into the it was one of the trades I took in the trade room. I kind of shorted it right there. So now a price is coming down. It tested the bottom of the range. So that's sort of how this price may behave. Okay, so buys I'm seeing down sideways. So let's take a look. I'm looking for price to come down into the bottom of this range that it's been trading in back into here. So let's see. Okay, pulls back a bit. I'm still looking for price to come down. It could go test this level once again. And let's see. Okay, so here we are. Price is into the bottom of the range. Now, what do we expect price to do from here? Any guesses where we can expect the price to go? Okay, down. All right, so I am from here. It will be interesting because now we are at the bottom of the range, right? So overall bias is to the downside, but because we are in the bottom of the range, sometimes price can go back into either towards the middle of the range or even to go and test the high of the range, depending on what's going on in the market. And we have had a big candle close here. So I would look for price to pull back into this support and resistance area at 1.6128, right into that, and then see if it holds back. So pull back, but overall bias is to the downside. So overall, I am looking for price to go down. So let's take a look. So here we go. It pulls back, drops back down into the next support and resistance level. And now we have a bullish candle close here, or bullish pin bar. So what do we expect price to do next? Okay, any suggestion or any comments on where you think price will go next? Okay, up, yep, I would look for price to go higher. I'm looking for a pullback. So overall, we're still in this sort of like downtrend, but now we are into the support. We have a bullish pin bar here. So I will look for price to go higher, to kind of retrace a bit. This will be the first target. Second one will be at the top of the candle here. So let's take a look. Okay, so we are back into the support and resistance area. So we have a bullish candle close here. What can we expect next? Okay, so since we have a bearish candle close here, we could see price go up. But overall, yes, we are still in the down move here, but I think it could go up again. And we could see even price go into this level once again. So let's take a look, or it could just get stuck right there.
Brazil central bank has left its benchmark rate on 5%.
Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, so it did not do that. So the move here is kind of similar to this one here. So we had a bullish candle close, and then we had price come down here. So now what do we expect? Okay, great job, everyone who is placing the comments in the comment section here. Good job. Keep going. You guys are doing great. And the point of the exercise is not to be completely perfect, but it's to just play the game. All right, so let's take a look. So now, where do we expect the price to go? We have a bearish candle close here. We are into the support. We have a large pin in the bottom here. So we are going sideways. Where do we expect price to go? So I would be looking for price to come and test the level down again. Overall, we are in this sideways move. Excuse me. So I'd be looking for price to come down again. So Sunny says this is a railroad type of formation. Yes, it is a railroad type of formation, except for the pin in the bottom. So I will look for price to drop back down into this support level once again. Overall, the bias is to the downside. So let's take a look. Here we go. We are back into the bottom. Now, what do we expect price to do? Okay, so I'm looking for a price to drop further down from here. I do like this candle close. Now we are into support, so we'll have to be careful. So we need a close down. We need the price to close below our support level here. But overall, my bias would be to the downside. So we need to see a break of this level. So if we were trading this under live market conditions, I would go into a lower time frame. I would look for price to drop, pull back, and then drop once again. Overall, I'm looking for price to go into the bottom of this candle here. So let's take a look. Okay, price pulls up higher. So that's a big bullish candle close here. What do we expect price to do again? What do we expect price to do now after this? So because this is a big bullish candle close, we could see price pull back higher. So overall, price is going sideways, the bias is still to the downside. Price is going sideways, but it hasn't managed to close below the support resistance area. So now that we have a big bullish candle close here, price could go back into this next support and resistance area or into this one here. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we are back into that support and resistance area, right into that pin. Now, where do we expect it to go next? Okay, so based on the bullish candle close, we are into resistance, but we still have this bullishness here. So we could see price go up higher and go test the high once again. But if it doesn't get past this level here, then we can see a turn. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we are all the way back into the high here. Now, what do we expect? Great guesses, everyone. So keep on going. Okay, so since we are into the highs, so now kind of similar to the situation we had before, where price was trying to break into the downside. Joel says Bears on holiday. They are on holiday. Everything went up. Okay, so now we are testing the high once again. So just like this one, see where price did not break the low. So what I would look for here is price to go and test the high once again, but so close to the high. I would look at a lower time frame here again. So just like we wanted to look at a lower time frame on this one, we would look for a lower time frame on this one here as well, because if it breaks up and holds above, then it's likely to continue higher. But if it tries to do this pop, like do stop runs here, then it could turn around and come down. Yes, we are right into the resistance right here. So this is where we'll have to kind of wait and see. So what I'm guessing right now, my guess will be that it would go and test the high once again, maybe do some sort of pin through the high. But if it closes, so on a lower time frame, so let's say we were looking at a 1 hour chart, it goes through this level and hangs around over here, then I would expect a move to the upside. So this is when we would go into a lower time frame. But overall, I'm looking for a retest here. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we are, tries to break through, and then we have a pin on top there. So right now it has closed on the other side of our resistance, but we do have a pin on top. So what happens next? What are we looking for? Okay, I would look for a retest of the high here. So right now we have closed on the other side of the range. Now let's take a look. Where are we in grand scheme of things? There is next level of support and resistance. We are right there. So there is that next level there. So with this one, it can pull back, and the question will be, will it stay above after it pulls back? So if it stays above, then we are definitely looking for price to go up higher. So again, this is where I would look at it again on maybe an hour time frame and see if price holds above this level, and then we are going higher. But because there's a pin here, that will be a little worrying for me. So I would look for a retest of the pin, but I would be a little bit concerned about whether it's going to continue higher. But there is a break here, clear break of the high. That's why we need to see what it would do. So let's take a look. Okay, there we go. So this is what I was talking about. So sometimes it will go to test the pin here, and then it would drop. So this is where trading, or not trading, but looking at a smaller time frame. So looking at an hourly time frame or a 15-minute time frame, you would be able to see if the price is in fact holding that level, or it starts to form that pattern where it's going to come back down. So now we have a bearish engulfing candle close. What are we looking for next? Okay, so next step would be Pitbull says down, Yulan says drop, double top, says Praveen. Okay, yeah, so now, I'm looking for price to go down. Shuman says down. Excellent. So I'm looking for price to go down as well. Bearish candle close here. Now, what can happen is price pulls back either into this previous support resistance level or into the bottom of this candle and then drop. That's a possibility because we are into this support here as well, where price had struggled a bit. So I'm looking for a pullback and then a drop, but overall my bias is to the downside. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we are. We have so had a tiny little pullback. So we have a nice candle close. What do we expect price to do next? Sunny says go towards the bottom of the range. So what is your guess on what price will do next? So what I would be looking for is, again, price to continue lower. So we have two good bearish candle closes. Pitbull says goes down. I would be looking for price to go down here as well. So let's take a look. There we go. Very, very nice, solid candle closes. So, so just a quick comment here. We are doing all this back testing, but what information can we gather besides just guessing the direction of the next candle? So what you want to do is, when you're looking at your strategy, what you want to do is, once you get this type of a setup, see how price tried to break above, comes back into the range, nice bearish candle close. this is when you want to take a trade, or this is what I want to take a trade, because usually we'll get 3 days of a trend, right? So for example, we got this candle close here, next 2 days it went up. So we got this bullish candle close, next 2 days went up, and then of course it continued going up. But what I'm looking for is price to continue in that direction. Once we have a nice setup, I'm looking for price to continue for the next 2 days. So this is like practical application of this back testing. Once you get something like this, once we have a good level, good candle close, then I want to be able to take a trade for the next 2 days so that we can literally just trail our stops and stay in this trade, and we can have confidence that price is likely to continue lower. So once we see enough of these, then we can apply this information to our normal, what do you call it, our day-to-day. So this is exactly what euro dollar, had in its in the daily. Didn't have this, had a pin bar instead. So we had a pin bar, 2 days of drop, right? So the last 2 days it has been dropping. The day before it had the Monday night, it had the pin bar, and then we have seen 2 days of drop. And this is how we want to apply this information to our day-to-day trading. Okay, so what do we expect now here? I'm seeing down. Yes, I'm expecting price to come into the bottom here and test this level once again. And if we can get a close below this, then I will be looking for price to go down further. So let's take a look. But this is an important support. So we could come into trouble, but I do like that this is a nice solid candle close. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we are. Price dropped, and now we are closing right exactly into the support here. So what do we do from here? We do have a pin in the bottom, which is yes. Overall, my bias would still be to the downside, but because we have this pin, just like we said here, because there's this pin, it could push back higher. So in this case, we could either get a move back into here or into the top of this candle. So let's take a look. So I'm looking for a pullback, and if it stays below here, then it could drop. So welcome everyone to all our new people who are joining. So keep commenting. All right. So we're saying go up, look at smaller time frame. Yeah. So that's exactly what I would do. I will look at a smaller time frame, drop down into an hourly or a 15-minute, and see how price is reacting at this level. Because if it holds below, then it gives us room for further move to the downside. But if it doesn't break this low, just like here, it didn't quite make it to the downside and hold below, then we could get that move back up. So let's take a look. We have had multiple days of down move, so it would make sense for us to have some sort of a retest again. So let's take a look. Okay, so there we go. So we have identical candles in the opposite direction here. So this is our tweezer bottom trade setup. Somebody had a comment on our YouTube saying I should identify the different candlestick setups as we go. So very fair comment. So I'm trying to incorporate more of that. So please do feel free to put that in the comments as well. And I'll try to keep that in mind as I'm going through. So this one is a tweezer bottom trade setup. We see rejection of the support level. So what do we expect price to do now? So in this case, Sunny's saying it could go up. So yeah, I'm still looking for that pullback back into either this support level or back into the high of the candle here. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we are back into this level. So we have a solid candle close up here. So what do we expect price to do now? Okay, Jill saying break down to the downside. So personally, for me, I would still look to see if price will go higher here into the next level of support and resistance, because that's a very solid candle close. That's a bullish engulfing candle close. We have sort of like a Maribozu type of candle where price closes right into the high of the candle. So it could go higher and then turn around. So let's see. So a lot of ups, some downs. Let's take a look. Okay, so there we go. So this is what I said about how it would pull back. And now we have a nice solid bearish candle close here, large pin on the top. It's tested the next level here. And now we have this bearish candle close. So what do we expect from here? What do you think the price is going to do next? Okay, so my guess would be to go down, people saying down. Yes, so I'm looking for price to retest the bottom here and then hopefully break down. Julian says break down and continue. That's what I would be looking for. So we've had a nice move down. We have had a pullback. We are into this support and resistance. We have a nice bearish candle close. Now I'm looking for a continuation. And ideally, what I want to see is price to close below this level here, solid bearish candle close, and then to continue lower. So that's ideally what I'd be looking for. So drop, pullback, continuation, move to the downside. So let's take a look. A lot of down people or everybody saying down. Yes. Okay, perfect. Great job. Let's take a look. Ooh, not so much. So we did come down, but price is really struggling with this level. So we did come right into the support once again. But like I mentioned, we need to see price close below the support level. And that's what we are not seeing, price close below this level. So we are into this sideways move now. We have a bullish candle close here right into our support. So now what? Okay, so because we have a bullish candle close, I would expect the price to go higher and maybe either come into a resistance right here, or it could go into the next level of support and resistance, which is right in this area. So this is what we need to do. So right now we are just going sideways. So we have a bullish candle close. I'm looking for price to go up either into the next level or just kind of run into trouble right here. So let's take a look. Okay, so there we go. It goes right into the next support and resistance area. Okay, so nice up move. So everybody was saying up. Yes, it has gone up and now it has closed down. Now we have a bearish pin bar. And I wonder where we saw the bearish pin bar last time and what happened. So what do we expect it to do now? So we do have a bearish pin bar. I agree. And what does that tell us? Where do we expect it to go now? Joel says bullish butterfly. Joel, I don't trade the harmonics, so I wouldn't know what a butterfly looks like unless somebody drew it for me, and even then I wouldn't know what to do with it. But from the pin bar perspective, I think we're looking for price to come back down. I would be looking for price to come back down into this area. So a lot of people are saying go down to support. Okay, so let's see, does it do that? I'm looking to see if price will drop. Oh, and there's your bullish butterfly, Joel. And we have a big bullish move to the upside. Price breaks the pin bar. And this is where, remember I mentioned that sometimes the pin bars will fail. And this is where the pin bar failed. And now we have a big bullish candle close, very, very strong candle here, just kind of like this one here. So what do we expect price to do next? So because we have a big bullish candle close here, I think it could go higher. Yeah. Oops, to the upside there. So now what do we expect price to do? I was looking for it to go back down into the support. That totally didn't happen. Okay, so now that we have a big bullish candle close, I'm looking for price to go and test the high once again. So let's take a look. Okay, so momentum's sort of fading here. We have a bullish candle with pins on both sides. Then what are we expecting here? So Jill says pullback and then up, bullish. So I'm looking for price to test the high here and then see what happens. So we went and tested the support multiple times and it just could not break below the support. So now it has pushed up higher. So I would be looking to see what happens at this level. Because if price, for it to continue higher, I need to see a close above the high. So just like we were looking for a close below the low here, and we never got it. the same way, I'm looking for a close above and a solid close above the high for it to continue higher. So I'm just looking for it to go into the high and then see what happens into the high. If you get a close above, then a price is likely to continue higher. So let's take a look. Okay, this is just sideways, still looking for it to go test the high. There we go. So price goes and tests the high, breaks through it, but then we have a pin at the top. Now, what do we expect? So personally, I would be looking for, this is again, because we are at that critical level where price could go either way. I would go to a lower time frame and I would look for price to, and I would look to see what price will do at this level and see if, so if price closes below this level, or holds below this level, I should say, then I'm looking for price to continue lower, because this doesn't look like any kind of a strong setup or strong setup to the upside. So let's take a look, but it doesn't mean that price couldn't go higher. It could certainly go higher, but we need to see a close above for it to continue. But right now, I would go to a smaller time frame and see what happens. And if it closes below, then I'm looking for price to move back down. So let's take a look. Okay, so there we go. See, it went and tested the high once again, right into the top. And then we have a bearish candle close now. What do we expect price to do next? Okay, so next. So Shuman's asking, maybe I could add some indicators like pivot points. I use daily pivot points, and those don't usually show up on a daily chart. But I could look to see if there's weekly pivot points, because pivot points I do like. Fib levels and stuff, I like fibs, but I don't get too crazy with them. And usually it's just literally price action and support and resistance levels is really what I'm looking for in terms of the daily level. But that's not to say that the fib levels are not respected. They are as well. So I'll try to see if I can do pivot point, but I think doing the fib levels may get a little crazy. So let me look into that. Okay, so now we have a bearish candle close. So what do we expect next? For me personally, I'll be looking for price to drop from here. So we have a double top right here. We have a bearish candle close. I'm looking for price to come back down now. Let's take a look. Okay, here we go. And we have a nice bearish candle close here. What do we expect next? Okay, down. Shuman, you're welcome. Down, Prickle says down. All right, so yes, I will look for price to go into the next support and resistance area here. So same thing. So once we have this type of a candle close, so now on a daily chart, I'm looking for 2 days of drop. First, we'll look for 1 day, and then if we get a good solid candle close, I will look for another one to the downside. So Joel, Zillian, Pritbal, everybody's saying to the downside. I'm looking for it to go down as well. So let's take a look. I'm targeting right here. I'm looking for price to drop into that level. So let's take a look. Sideways, a bit of a pullback. I'm still expecting price to go down. My bias is to the downside. Not so much. Okay, so now price has pulled back and we are into the high. So now we are starting to put pressure to the upside now. So that's a nice solid candle close to the upside. So this good candle close didn't get us anywhere. It just got stuck at that support and resistance area right around here. And we do need to see a close below. So now we have bullish candle close again. What are we looking for now? Okay, so now I'm actually looking for price to move up higher into testing the high here once again. So into this level or into the next resistance level here. And so those will be my targets. I'm looking for basically price to go into the high. So let's take a look. Okay, and it didn't do that either. So we just sideways now. We're completely sideways. This is when price is going a little into consolidation. So right now we have all kinds of, we're just in a sideways consolidation, and this is where we have to be really careful, because this is where most traders will lose money, because there is no clear market direction. It's just choppy back and forth. Okay, so we have a bearish candle close now. What do we expect next? I would actually be looking for price to go back into the support here again, because we are into this consolidation area, high, low. We are in the middle, so I'm looking for price to drop into the bottom. If it doesn't close below the bottom, then it could turn around once again. But I'm looking for price to retest the low here. Let's take a look. Okay, here we go. So it tests the low, but it gives us a large pin here. Now what do we do? So we are seriously in consolidation here. Breaks down into the next support and resistance right into here, and then pulls back up again. So what do we do next? So what are we expecting next? So I would be looking for price to drop once again and see if it could go test the low here once again. So let's take a look. So we have down, up, let's see. Okay, up. So we were not able to close below the resistance. So just a comment here. I do pay a lot of attention to closes. So again, anytime I'm into this type of a level where price is closing into support, this is where I like to go into a smaller time frame, and I like to see how price reacts at that support resistance level, because really what we need to see is a close. See, when price doesn't close below the support level or resistance level, or support level doesn't close below the support level, it doesn't continue. And same thing, when price doesn't close above the previous high, it doesn't continue. So this is just kind of one tip that I have learned over the years, is that if you don't see a candle close below that level, this is a breakout and then goes back in. If we don't see a candle close here, we don't have a real direction till then. So now we were at the bottom of this consolidation. We have a bullish candle close. So a lot of ups here. I will look for price to go back up into the top of the range here. So looking for price to continue higher. So let's take a look. Okay, here we are right into the top of the range. And now we are at the top of the range and we have a pin on top. Not a huge pin, but we do have a pin like we had here. So what do we expect here? So with this one, again, this is where, just like we talked about here, this is where I would go into a smaller time frame as well. Now we are into the top of the range. So if we were just trading this as a range bound market, I would be looking for price to close back into this range and then go back down. With this one, we need to see what price is going to do if it holds above this level. So again, we go to a small time frame. If it holds above this level, then it could go higher. But if it closes back in, then I will be looking for price to drop. So let's take a look. Okay, there we go. It closes all the way through and it breaks through the high finally. So we had this support level that price hit that it wasn't able to break through for a number of days. It tried multiple days to break through it, couldn't do it. And then we pushed back into the high. Then price started consolidating higher here and pushed into the high. So now we are all the way back on the other side. So here we need to go back and see where we are in the grand scheme of things. So we are almost into that high. There is a higher level all the way up here. So that's our next level to the upside. So let's take a look. So we are into the next level of support and resistance right there. Okay, so large candle close, we have a bullish candle close, we do have a bit of a pin here. What do we expect here? So for me, I would look for a retest of this level. So I would look for price to go into the high here and see what it gives us. So my bias will be to the upside and go into the high. So now one thing to keep in mind is that because we have had this breakout to the upside, we could get a pullback either into that level or that level there, and then a continuation higher. So do keep that in mind, that we could get a pullback and then move higher, but I'm looking for that type of a move. Let's see. Okay, so we just a little pin bar inside. Let's see. Okay, So now we have a bearish candle close. So it's not a bearish engulfing or anything, small candle close. So we're still pulling back. So I would still see that as a pullback. There is room to pull back all the way into this level here. So with this one, we are kind of going sideways. So I would look for a price to pull back lower, perhaps a bit. Okay, so it pulled back lower right into the tip there. And now we have a bullish pin bar. What do we expect from here? Okay, any guesses on what do we expect here? Okay, so personally, what I consider this, when we are trading breakouts, this is what I normally look for: price to go breakout, pull back, and then continue higher. So I'm looking for price to go and test the highs once again. So I'm seeing a lot of ups. Yes, I agree. I would look for price to go higher here as well. Let's take a look. Okay, there we go. Price went up high. So just a quick note here. When you see price doing sideways move here, we are looking for price to close. Like I mentioned before, I'm looking for price to close on the other side of the range. Once price closes on the other side of the range, I'm looking for a pullback and then a continuation to the upside. So a lower time frame definitely works in that type of sense, but keep that in mind. So that's a normal move that I would look for. A price breaks out, pulls back into the other top of the range, and then continues higher. Okay, so now we have a bullish engulfing candle close here. Joel says bearish butterfly. So butterflies, I'm not familiar with. So last time you said bullish butterfly, it definitely went there. Now I would not know how it's supposed to go from there, but this is a bullish candle close. I would look for price to come back, do a test to the downside, retest. Now there is room for price to move higher. So my bias would be bullish, but I'd be looking for price to retest here and then potentially go into the high. And then, because that's a big level. We haven't been at that level in over a year. So that's a yearly level. And so this is where it could come into some trouble. So let's take a look. So I'm looking for a pullback and potentially go higher from there. Let's take a look. Okay, so goes right, doesn't even do a pullback, goes right into the high, and then we have a doji. What do we expect now? So I think this is, Joe, where your bearish butterfly may come into be. So I would be looking for price to essentially drop from here, but it could do a retest and then a drop. But that's a big level. And I think there would be sellers sitting here. I think there will be a problem there. Our price could come into, may struggle there. So in this case, this is a bearish signal. I would see this as a bearish signal. But even with the pin bar here, sometimes price can do this, right? Retest the high. So I always look for that, or I always look for a pullback on a pin bar. Overall, my bias will be to the downside, but we can see a retest, or we can see a pullback here, and then I'll be looking for a drop. So let's see. Okay, so there's our price pulling back. It's still an inside candle, so we haven't closed above the high. So I'm still looking for a retest of the high. Here we are. So this is what I was talking about. See, and we just saw this right there. See where price had gone into the high. Let me see if I can pull back. So price had given us a pin bar, given us another bullish candle close, and then it had given us a bearish candle here. So we have pretty much a replication of this setup right here. So my question to you is, what do we expect next? So you can take a look, you can cheat, you can take a look at that. You can take a look at that and tell me, where do we expect the price to go next? Okay, so personally, I would be looking for price to drop into the support level. Ripple says down. So I will be looking for price to drop into this next support and resistance level. Julian says down. All right. John saying down. So Marcus says, I don't see the point of this. Well, the point of this is that we are developing, we're not good at predicting things. We're actually not predicting things. All we're trying to do is looking at what happened in the past, and based on what happens in the past, because these patterns tend to repeat themselves. At least the price action is all based on patterns. We're just looking for patterns of price behavior, and that's all we're looking for. I have no idea what would happen next in terms of predicting anything. So no, I cannot really make any predictions. I have no special God-given gift or anything in that respect. All we're looking for is looking at previous price action and looking to see, because the patterns tend to repeat themselves, I'm looking for to learn the patterns so that when they show up like this, we can say, I know where this showed up last time, and based on last time, it went down. So what do I expect here? I'm looking for price to drop into the next support and resistance level. So that's really the point of it. So here, I'm looking for it to drop. So I see some drops, some says down. Let's take a look. Okay, there we go. So this is really the whole point of it, right? Not so much predicting, but really just looking for what happened previously, and based on that, making an educated guess on what we can expect, because there's definitely a way to. Yes, I'm asking you what to expect. So it's up to you, Marcus. You don't need to participate if you choose not to, right? So it's a fun game. If you feel like you can get something out of it, absolutely. If not, just kind of watch the show, right? Okay, so we have a big bearish candle close here. What do we expect to happen next? Yes. So semantics. Yes. What do you expect to happen next? So I would expect price to potentially pull back, but this is a bearish candle close. We are into support here, so we have to be careful. Again, we need a close below this level for it to continue. But what I'm looking for is, yes, I'm looking for pressure to the downside, looking for price breakdown. It could do a test here as well, just like this. So kind of a head and shoulders here, we could expect that, and then a drop. So basically my bias is to the downside. So let's take a look. Okay, here we go. See, yeah, so I don't know if you would call this prediction or you would just call this experience, right? Because this is what I've seen many times happen before. So this is the point of it, is that we just make an educated guess based on what we have seen price do previously. All right, so we saw a pullback, we have a doji, we have not seen a break below here. So at this point, I want to see price close below, because if it doesn't close below, look at here, price had gone up, right? So this is where we can learn from previous experiences. See how price had closed into the bottom here, but then it pushed back up. So what we need to see here is, this is where I would go to a smaller time frame and take a look at what's going on. Because if we can get a close here below on a smaller time frame, then I will look for price to continue lower. But if we cannot get a close here, then it could go higher once again. So I'm rooting for a close to the downside. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we go, pulls back and then a drop. So now we have seen a close below. What do we expect? Break to the downside, Jill says, okay, I am looking for a further move to the downside. I'm with you on that, looking for prices to, or looking for it to drop further. So I would look for a pullback into this previous resistance level and then a drop again. So people saying to the downside, yes, I'm looking for, I'm looking for price to go drop down lower. So let's take a look. Okay, so it pulls back. So it pulls back into this area. So it hasn't closed below. Now we have a doji. So kind of similar to this, right? Pulls back, drops, pull back, then a drop. So I'm looking for a pullback and drop again. Yes, Shuman, I should come read your palm. Forecast all the riches in your future. Oh, I so wish I could do that. But no. All right, so I'm looking for price to drop. See if it will drop further. Let's take a look. Okay, so it does drop further, and now we are back into this previous support and resistance area where price had struggled. And we have a bullish pin bar. what do we do now? What do we expect? Where do we expect price to go next? Okay, now because we have a bullish pin bar, I would look for price to actually go up into this next support and resistance. So I'm not turning completely bullish, but it could pull back here or pull back there, right? So because we have this bullish signal, we have rejected the bottom. That's a big pin bar, and we are pushing high. So kind of like this, right? So we have a pin bar here. We came into support, have a pin bar. So I'm looking for price to test this level again or test the higher level again, but just looking for it to go up higher. So everybody's saying go up higher as well. Let's take a look. Not so much. So, okay, so what do we expect again? Okay, so Praveen, I do think it can go test this level once again, but if it stays below here, then chances are it's going to continue lower. Okay, so this is again, because it has given us this type of signal here, again, I will look for what price does in this area. As long as it stays below this 164.14 level here, it could continue lower because overall bias is to the downside. But because we have this pin here, it could continue into this level or that level. So there's still that a little bit of a concern there. Personally, for me, I would have a little bit of a concern. Overall bias is still to the downside. So let's see. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about, right? So I have seen this price behavior over and over again, and you know, which is good and a bad thing. So here, so price can sometimes, so because we have the strong signal, bullish pin bars. Like I said, pin bars, I love pin bars. And see how price gave us a pin bar and went up, pin bar went up, bearish pin bar drops, bearish pin bar, and then finally dropped, right? So this is why, because because it's not a completely solid candle close. So I'm looking for a bearish engulfing candle close for it to continue lower. This I like. Now, the reason I like this is because price has taken that opportunity, because we had seen number of drops, right? So now price has had the opportunity to do a pullback, so retracement, and now we have closed lower here. So this is our big pin bar to the downside. So I am looking for a drop. So Shimon's saying drop, yeah. And Joel's saying down to support. I will look for price to go back down into the support or the support. And then we are coming into support, like a big support once again. So my bias would be to the downside here. So let's take a look. Okay, so here you go. So there we are. So Marcus, if you're there, so hopefully you can see there is some advantage to going through these candlesticks bar by bar, because it does train our brain to look at if X happens, what's Y, right? It's just a causal relationship. It's not so much for predicting the future. I seriously cannot do it. I wish I could, but don't think of it like that. Or if you're sort of in that mindset, and anybody else, not to pick on Marcus there, but anyway, so if you're interested in trading, I would say just put your skepticism aside for a minute and just take a look at what we are doing here, right? So you'll find that there are patterns that market follows. So it's a good idea for us to get our brains and our eyes trained to look for those things. So every time you look, you see, out of the corner of your eye, you see something flying, you would think bird. That's sort of how I view this. So I think we have had a good session. We are kind of coming into an hour, just over an hour here. So we will pick it up again. And so just remember, tomorrow when we pick it up, we are into support here. And I usually leave this open, leave the test open so we can pick it up again at the next time. So we are going to continue. So my apologies if you think this is a little bit too much of practice, but I don't think there's any practice that is too much. My goal really is for myself to become a very professional trader so that I'm competing with the very, very best out there in the world. And in doing so, I'm sharing what I know and how I am going about it. So I may not be doing it the right way, but this is just based on what my experience is. So I intend to keep on backtesting. My idea is really to get 10,000 hours. That's what I would love to do, get 10,000 hours of practice under my belt. I'll get that 10,000 hours. We would be one of the best in the world. So that's my goal. I don't know how much we will do, but yes, I'm willing to put in the work because I do want those returns as well. And I really want that, that type of, points, I suppose, from there. So I'm willing to put in the effort. So if you want to do this, please come join me again tomorrow, same time. We will 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 Mountain, I suppose. And we will pick this up again. And if there's anything you want me to include as I'm going through it, like the person who made a comment about, please talk about the candlestick patterns, I will make sure to do that, because sometimes when I'm going through this, I forget, or I don't know what you don't know. And things that may be useful, I just look at it and I don't really elaborate. So feel free to ask me questions to elaborate more, because I'll make sure that I do that. And Shivan, you mentioned looking at some weekly pivots. I'll take a look if the software has weekly pivots in there, because those will be helpful as well. I will try to incorporate Fibonacci. I just need to go look at it, kind of familiarize myself with the program. The program that I'm using here is called Forex Tester. And I keep saying I'll post a link, but I will post a link so that if you're wanting to do it yourself, you can go look at it. And I think there's a discount offered through the affiliate link if you are interested. All right, so you guys, we will wrap it up. Thank you so much for participating. And we will play the game once again. So I will see you tomorrow. Okay, bye for now. Have a great evening or morning, wherever you are. All right, bye for now.